Good morning, guys. Once again, I'm not there, so we're going to do a video so we can keep things moving. For right now, I want you to go ahead and set up your notebook page like you see it here. You might have to go ahead and pause the video because I am holding my camera right now. But I forget what page we're on. That's why it says page question mark. The date's 2/27/25, and the title is Parallel Lines Cut by a Transversal. Pause if you need to see that for longer. But the next half of our unit, so the first half of our unit, we dealt with triangles. We dealt with the angles inside a triangle add up to 180, or we dealt with the fact that the outside angle adds up to be the same as the remote interior angles. Okay, that was the last 2 days. Now we're going to move into angles created when a transversal cuts through parallel lines. Now you already know what parallel lines are. That's these guys, right? These two are parallel. Sometimes we name them. We could call it A and B. We could call them M and N. Okay, it doesn't really matter, but parallel lines run side by side forever. They never touch. They never cross. They run side by side. Okay, so parallel can go side to side. They can go up and down. It doesn't matter. Okay, but this other guy here, we'll call him C here. We'll call him L here. Made it cursive so you can tell it's an L. All right, that's called a transversal. It's just the name for if a line goes through parallel lines and touches them both. Nothing really that fancy about it, but what happens is it creates a lot of angles, and there's a lot of relationships in those angles. And so we're going to talk about those relationships today. So again, if you have not yet copied this down on your notebook page, I don't remember what page it is, but copy it down. Pause the video if you need to. And also by now you should have this paper from the sub. If not, go ahead and grab it. Yours is gray, mine is white, but it looks like this, and it's what technically should be a 6-door foldable, but we're not going to cut anything. So if you don't have this, pause the video and grab it, and so we can continue. But what we're going to do today is, if you look at this, the left side has a relationship, all three of these types of angles. The right side has relationships, these types of angles. We're going to do this in 2 videos. We're going to talk about the left side in one video and the right side in another. Make sure you watch them both and get it filled in. All right, so we've got 3 types of angles over here on the left side. Vertical angles, alternate interior or exterior angles, and then corresponding angles. And so the thing that we need to understand about those types of angles is they are congruent. Okay, and congruent is just the geometry way to say that they're the same size. It's the geometry form of equal. Okay, it just means they're equal. That's it, just a fancy word for that. Okay, so our first set of angles is going to be vertical angles. Now, you should have and did cover these last year with Mr. Gary, all right, or whoever you had. But you might have forgotten, and if you did, we're going to go over them, all right? So first thing, while you're sitting there, while you're watching me and getting situated, I forgot on your paper to do this. Go ahead and number your angles the same way I did, okay? So with vertical angles, what you need to have is, now these are the only 2 that we're going to talk about that you don't necessarily have to have parallel lines for. All the other angles you have to have parallel lines for, but these, you just need 2 intersecting lines. And hopefully what you see here is these 2 intersecting lines, they basically make an X, okay? So with vertical lines, we're going to look for an X, okay? And where you have vertical angles, okay, is where you have an X. And all you're going to look for is, okay, if you look in this X, you kind of see how there's like a V here, okay? And then see how there's a V right here, right below it, okay? These right here are vertical angles to each other, okay? Because they're in your X, they're the top and the bottom V's of your X, all right? So what we say about these, okay, is that angle 1, remember we wrote angle 1, like that with the symbol, and there's a symbol for congruent. It's an equal sign with a little squiggle on top. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 because they are vertical angles, okay? And so if you want to go ahead and grab some colors, grab like 3 colors. I grabbed red, green, and blue. Or possibly this is pink and maybe my blue is purple, but it doesn't matter. So I'm going to use my red, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and illustrate here my 2 V's, Okay, my V where angle 1 is inside, my V where angle 3 is inside, and they are the same size. They're congruent, they're equal, okay, because they are vertical angles. All right, I like to say they're across the X from each other. All right, now, I just drew 2 of them so that we could see another set of vertical angles. These 2 are basically exactly the same, okay, but if you look here now it goes sideways, but you see a kind of a sideways V here where 4 is, and you see the sideways V here where 2 is. Okay, they're vertical angles because they're, like I said, they're kind of across the X from each other. So again, we've got angle 2, got the same symbol. It's an equal sign with a squiggle. It means congruent. So angle 2 is congruent to angle 4 by vertical angles. Okay, so again, I'm just going to go like this, draw a little arrow to that symbol, and make sure that we know that that means congruent, which means equal. Okay? If you need more time to write any of that down or to make any of the marks I just made, take your time, pause the video. Otherwise, let's keep on keeping on. Our next set of angles, okay, is called alternate interior or exterior. We're going to cover these both. Technically, these should be 2 separate things, but we're just going to cover them both because they're both very similar. Okay, so we're going to go alternate interior or exterior angles. Now remember, all the angles on this side of the paper, they're all going to be congruent. That means they're all, whatever angles we identify, they're going to be equal to each other. Okay, so vertical angles, 1 was equal to 3. Okay, so if angle 1 was 80 degrees, angle 3 is 80 degrees. Okay, same thing, angle 2 and angle 4 are congruent. So if angle 2 is 50 degrees, angle 4 is 50 degrees. They're the same. So our next set of congruent angles, all right, is these alternate interior or exterior angles. All right, so we're going to start here with what do these words mean, right? Let's start with the word interior, okay? So what does interior mean? Well, if you're thinking like the interior of your car, it means inside, okay? Now, when I'm talking inside, if you're looking at this picture, what could we be inside of? Well, look at your parallel lines. See this space inside of them? Okay, that's what we're talking. When we're talking interior, we're talking in between these the 2 parallel lines. Okay, and then alternate. Okay, if you can alternate between standing on your left foot and standing on your right foot, that means you're just kind of switching. You're standing on opposite feet. So alternate is going to mean opposite. Okay, and so again, inside means the parallel lines. Okay, and opposite is going to be talking about the transversal. Okay, I'm just going to abbreviate it to trans. Right. So alternate interior angles are 2 angles that are inside the parallel lines. So that's either 3, 4, 5, or 6. And they're on alternate or opposite sides of the transversal. So we're going to have 2 sets of these. But for right now, okay, let's look at angle 3 and angle 6. Okay. Do you see how angle 3 and angle 6, they're both between the parallel lines, and 3 is to the left of the transversal? Again, remember, this thing here is the transversal, okay? So 3 is to the left of the transversal, 6 is to the right of the transversal. So they're interior, they're between the parallel lines, they're alternate, they're on opposite sides of the transversal. So we know by alternate interior angles that angle 3, and remember we said all these angles on this side are congruent, right? So angle 3 is congruent to angle 6 by alternate interior angles. I'm going to even go like this to separate this a little bit. Okay. All right, now we have another set of alternate interior angles. So again, grab a different color. I used red for the first set, so I'm going to use green. Okay. Look at angle 4 and angle 5. All right. See how angle 4 and 5 are both, they're between the parallel lines. So they're inside the parallel lines. And again, they're on opposite sides of the transversal. 4 is to the right, 5 is to the left. So these are, again, alternate interior angles. And again, they're on the left side of the paper, so they're congruent. So we can write angle 4 is congruent to angle 5 because, again, they're alternate interior angles. Now, one thing I like to say when you're looking for these, I look for the Z, okay? I call it the armpits of the Z. So this armpit in this armpit are where your alternate interior angles live. And so if you look right here and you make a Z, see how angle 3 and 6 are in the armpits of the Z? And then if you made kind of a weird backward Z, okay, angle 4 and angle 5 are in its armpits, okay? So angle 3 and angle 6 are the same size. Angle 4 and angle 5 are the same size. And listen, guys, don't overcomplicate this. Look at these angles. See how 3 is skinny and 6 is skinny? Don't overcomplicate it. If they're both skinny, they're the same size. 4 is wide and 5 is wide. Again, don't overcomplicate it. Both wide, they're both the same size. Okay? We're just giving it names to make it, I don't know, I guess sound fancier or something. Who knows? All right? Now, our other type of angle that talks about alternate is our alternate exterior angles, right? And so that's what we're going to look at here. So again, alternate, I'm going to write that in a second. That still means opposite. But exterior, okay, and if you're thinking about the exterior of your car, the exterior of your house, the exterior of whatever, okay, means outside. And when we're talking about that, we're talking about of the parallel lines. That's a symbol for parallel, okay? Alternate still means the same thing. Alternate, okay, still means opposite. And we're still talking about the transversal, okay? So now we're talking about exterior angles, the angles outside the parallel lines. So that's like 1, 2, 7, and 8. Okay, and all these numbers in here, they're not the angle measures. They're just they're just basically names for the angles. So that if I said the angle, well, which one am I talking about? Well, if I say angle 8, you know I'm talking about that one. Okay, if I say angle 3, you know I'm talking about that one. They're just names so that we know what angles we're talking about. Okay, so we've got exterior. Exterior means outside of the parallel lines. That's either 1 and 2 or 7 and 8. Or, well, it's all 1, 2, 7, and 8. And then alternate means opposite of the transversal, opposite sides. So if we're looking at this, right, if I take, I'm going to take blue here, okay, and I look at number 1, okay, angle number 1 is outside the parallel line, and it's on the left side of the transversal. Well, I want exterior, so that's good, that's what I have, and I want alternate, right? Now, they have to be the same size, right? So if you're looking at 1 and 2, again, don't overcomplicate it. Clearly, 1 and 2, okay, this big wide angle and this little skinny angle are not the same size, okay? So we're looking down here. 1 is a big wide angle, so is 8, okay? So our alternate exterior angles are 1 and 8, and we can write it as angle 1 is congruent to angle 8. And again, that's the congruent. That means the same size. Okay. If I take my red, I look at angle 2. That's my other exterior angle up top. See how it's a little skinny angle? Look down here at number 7. Okay. Angle 2 is outside the parallel line on the right side of the transversal. Angle 7 is outside on the left side of the transversal. Alternate, okay, exterior angles. And again, we can write angle 2 is congruent to angle 7. Listen, I'm going to give all of these angles names, these relationships names. But do not overcomplicate this, okay? Skinny, 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 skinny. They're all the same. Wide, 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 and wide are all the same, okay? And then there's going to be a relationship between them that we'll talk about in a minute, okay? All right, now moving forward, okay? And there's no, like, so I told you to look for the Z here, and we're looking at an X here. There's no letter for this. It just kind of is what it is. You just have to remember. All right, and now our last set of congruent angles is called corresponding angles, okay? Now, if you know anything about the word corresponding, right? Corresponding, okay? Corresponding just means it's in the same spot, okay? So, like, if you look, I don't know how to say this. If we look at this paper, okay? If you look at this paper, right? Technically, okay, I could kind of fold it into 4, okay? Because technically, just pretend right now for a second that this crease is a fold, right? there's a fold that runs the whole way here, fold that runs the whole way in the middle, a fold that runs the whole way here, okay? If something was corresponding, it means it's in like the same spot. So if you said like top left corner of this column, top left corner of this column, top left corner of this column, top left corner of this column. If I put stars, and you don't have to put these stars, I'm just putting this as an example, okay? If I put stars in the top left corner of each column of my paper, okay, they're all corresponding. They're all in the same spot, just in different columns, right? This star is in the first column, this star is in the second, this star is in the third, this star is in the fourth. Okay, they're all in the top left corner of each column. They're all in the same spot of each column, okay? So corresponding just means the same spot. All right, so if we're looking at this, now there's going to be a lot of ways or a lot of places that we can see corresponding angles. That's why I put two here too, two sets of parallel lines, because I don't want to overlap it and overload it too much. So first one I want you to look at, because it's the easiest one to see, is go ahead and mark angle 4. Okay? So angle 4, okay, if you're looking at it, right? Compared to this parallel line, it's below it. And compared to this transversal, it's to the right. Okay? So it's below its parallel, it's to the right of the transversal. So what other angle is in the same spot? Well, it has to be below a parallel line and to the right of a transversal. So this one's below a parallel line, but it's to the left, so that's not it. Okay? These are both above parallel lines, okay, above this one at least. All right? This number 7 here is below the parallel, but it's again to the right of the to the left of the transversal. Okay? Only number 8 is below its parallel line and to the right of its transversal. Okay? So 4 is below the parallel to the right of the transversal. 8 is below the parallel to the right of the transversal. So by corresponding angles, we know that angle 4 is congruent to angle 8. Okay? Now another thing that I always tell people to look for, and you can see it here, look for the F. Look for the armpits of the F. Okay? See up here in this corner, like right here and right here, I call that the armpits of the F. All right? So if you look right here, I'm going to use the same color here. If I trace these two parallel lines, see how the F kind of pops out? Now it's a little crooked, but an F pops up. See how 4 and 8 are in its armpits? Okay? So those are corresponding angles. Now I'm going to grab a different color and I'm going to do another set of corresponding angles. Okay? The next that I'm going to do is, let's look at angle 5. Okay? And I'm just picking angles randomly. Okay? So I picked angle 5. Notice that angle 5 is above its parallel line and it's to the left of the transversal. So we need to find the corresponding angle will also be above the parallel and to the left of the transversal. Well, if you look around, the only other one that is above a parallel line and to the left of the transversal, okay, is angle 1. Okay? And see, like, if I cover that up, right, this is top left. If I cover this up, it's top left. They're in the same spot, just on opposite parallel lines. Okay? And so again, if I wanted to, I could draw another F here. This time it'd be upside down and backwards. But if you can kind of picture it, you see the F, right? That's the top, that's the bottom, and then 1 and 5 are in its armpits. Okay? So again, we're gonna write this down. Right? Angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. And these are, again, by corresponding angles. Okay? Now, there are more sets of corresponding angles. Let's look at them real quick. I'm going to look at them over here just to keep things moving. All right, I'm going to grab my blue this time. Okay? So we already dealt with 4, 8, 1, and 5. So let's look at 2. All right, well, 2 is above the parallel and to the right of the transversal. So if we come down here, 5 and 6 are above the parallel, but only 6 is to the right of the transversal. Again, see how in their own parallel lines, this is like top right, this is top right. Okay, they're in the same spot. So by corresponding angles, we know that angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. And again, if you want to, you could draw the upside down F and see that your dots, your congruent angles are in the armpits of the F. Okay? And the last ones we haven't talked about yet right, are 3 and 7, which are also corresponding. I'm going to go ahead and mark these, right? So we know that angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding, meaning that they're congruent. Okay, because again, both of them are below the parallel, right? So below the parallel and to the left of the transversal. Okay, so again, angle 3 and angle 7 are also congruent because they're corresponding angles. Okay, so if you don't have any part of that written down or copied down into your graphic organizer, if you didn't use the colors, if you didn't write the stuff, if you didn't write the definitions, go ahead and rewind the video and write those things down now. Okay, once we go over this other side of the paper, I'm going to give you an IXL assignment, and we'll practice more tomorrow. But for right now, get this copied down and come back or go to the next video for the other side of this graphic organizer.